Now it's coming. There you go. Hello, everybody. Oops. It looks fine. Can you guys hear us?
Hi.
Can anyone hear us?
Yes. And is the lighting okay?
And is the lighting okay?
Whoop. Whoop.
What's up, guys?
Hi. Okay, we got a yes.
Loud and clear.
Loud
Yeah.
and clear. Nice. Thanks.
We
Bruce?
never know with Panama's Wi-Fi. Sometimes it goes in and out at this Marina all the time.
Yeah. It's better than some places, but
It's actually really good.
yeah. So how's everybody doing? New year, exciting times. We are still here in Boca del Toro, Panama.
Yep, we're still the same Marina.
Same Marina. Yes, we've been here for about 2 months now, basically since we got back from the States. So we have actually our biggest news is that we have moved the boat. We did that recently. So we have moved the boat, but we just moved the boat and come back to this marina, Red Frog Marina. It's the marina where we're at. Yeah. So we're obsessed with Panama. We absolutely love it here. It's just beautiful. And the winter, now that it's winter season here, it's cooler than it was in the summer. Schmoops.
Thanks, Schmoops.
Hi, Schmoops. Yeah, I don't even know what I was saying, but yeah, it's a little cooler now because we're actually only 19 degrees from the equator, which
9
is
degrees.
9 degrees from the equator, which is crazy to me. So it's very different being here because we don't have.
We're having technical difficulties. I just kicked the charger out. Yeah, we'll wait for a couple people to get in here, and then we'll.
Anyway, it's like not a 4-season place, so it's like really interesting. We didn't realize this, but there's actually a second rainy season that happens in December. So we left during June, which is one of the rainy seasons, and apparently it actually rains even more in December than it does in June. And I Googled it, and it's true. So we actually had a lot of rain from I Googled it, so that means it's true. But we had a lot of rain for the first 3 weeks of December, and now it's a lot brighter and sunnier. But yeah, it's just so interesting being in a place close to the equator. It's very different, and they kind of have fall here. Like the trees weren't as green as they were in June when we came back. Just noticing all these subtle things, and it's just very different than being in America. Yeah.
So yeah, so when we get back to the boat, we've been back here since. Thank you guys, thank you everybody, thank you Jeffrey.
Oh,
Laura, Larry.
Thank you for sailing us a lesson.
When did
you guys?
So we came back. We got back to the boat in November. Almost.
Yeah, basically.
So we spent the last 2 months kind of getting everything back shipshape. The boat survived. It was pretty dirty, pretty moldy.
Yeah, there was a new video that just came out on Patreon on
yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. I think Friday. But yes, basically yesterday. But yeah, that is the first video of us being back and doing the things that Bill's talking about, cleaning mold and dirt.
Yeah. So we're back in Panama. The videos are back in Panama. Our Instagram's back in Panama. So everything's all aligned again.
Everything's all aligned, and we did some fun stuff over the last few weeks here too. So that'll be coming out shortly by video. We took a little trip to Boquete, which is the mountain highlands. Probably, I think it was like a 42-mile distance from Boca del Toro, but it took 5 hours because it's all windy mountain roads. That was a crazy adventure. So we filmed that. That's going to be coming up. And then, yeah, just the rest of our project stuff that we've been doing to get the boat back in order. Some interesting chart plotter stuff coming up next week for patrons. Some upgrades that we did.
Yep. So it's been good. We did take the boat out. So for New Year's Eve, we moved the boat into town. So that was the first time moving the boat since June. And I thought I had tested all the systems pretty thoroughly. Like I did run through the boat and made sure the windlass worked and batteries were charging and all that stuff. But of course, as soon as we start moving, things started failing. So the first morning we woke up to a low voltage alarm, which is strange because we were just plugged in like 12 hours previously. And then the windlass stopped working. The alternator wasn't charging. So it was a brief stay on anchor. And then we came back to the marina last weekend. And I've just been kind of trying to troubleshoot through all that stuff.
Yeah, so my sister was actually here visiting from Arizona. So she was here during that little trip that we took. And yeah, Bill had done so much to get the boat ready. It was a little bit disappointing that we had some issues, but realistically, I mean, when you move the boat, obviously there's certain tests that are harder to kind of perform when you're in a marina, and so I think it's just natural that we found some more things
Thanks,
that
everyone.
were
Super chat's coming
broken.
in.
Oh, Jim.
And Dave Crombie.
Dave Crombie. Oh yeah, we need to pay a little attention here. I did notice one person asked me where my pet sloth is, and I can tell you where
Carol, yeah.
can tell you where it is, Carol, because I've gotten a little bit obsessed with sloths because they have two species of sloth here, and one of the species, the three-toed sloth, which actually means fingers but not toes. I won't get into that, but they're smaller than like the classic kind of sloth like pictures, I guess, and stuff that you see around. They're really cute. They're really friendly, and we've seen them so many times that we know where they live. We know their schedule. And recently, I had my Nat Geo moment with a mother and a baby. And it was incredible. It's so incredible. Like this marina is.
I'm over it.
This marina.
I've seen so many sloths.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting putting this stuff into a video because I want to use my sloth footage, at least some of it. But this marina, just to give you guys a sense, and I think this was in one of our videos, but it's so unique, this island, because they just like paved a road through the middle of the jungle. I mean, they must have been a really big project. So all the animals and everything that like are hard to see, A, because they're up in trees, but B, they're in dense forests, dense jungle. I mean, you're walking through these paths. So we see monkeys. I mean, last night we were walking home from a bar that's on the property, saw an antelope, an owl, and a giant frog, like this big. That was just like in a 10-minute walk. So anyway, it's crazy, but yeah, it is time to go. And that is also another topic that we want to talk to you guys about, but I'm going to go through a few comments. I think that'd be a good idea before we get too far.
Oh, let's see. It's
Holy Man Jim, Bob from Florida, George Mean, Snowy Virginia. Oh, there's so much snow going on right now in so many places. Chesapeake, two Sunset Sailors.
Yes, it's cold to be on a boat.
Hi, Bob. Ooh, we got New Zealand, Gulf Harbor. Ooh, one day. Hi, everybody. Okay, yeah, I know we can't go through them all, but let's see. Happy New Year, Larry. Ottawa, Canada. Christian, that's where I'm from. Another Canada, Maureen. Don't want your boat to get wet. Okay.
There's no question, just all hello looks like.
Hi from Finland. Where's your pet sloth? Too hot or too cold? We have really acclimated to the temperature here. Well, Bill's a little nervous about not being plugged into AC, but you're I think you're there. It's very humid here.
Yeah. Anyway. What was the person on your agenda that you had?
Okay. Let's go to our agenda. Although I do think where's your favorite time in the States? Okay, yeah, we'll go. Okay, good questions. Okay, so back in Panama, we moved the boat. We broke a bunch of stuff. It was my birthday recently. That was a big one for me.
Yeah, Grace turned 40. Wow, what an old lady now. That was December 18th.
And we had such a nice time. So Kaza's mother, Mormor, was here visiting from Sweden, and I've kind of gotten to know her just like on the phone and stuff because Kaza will often put her FaceTime up so Nugget can talk to Mormor and keep that relationship going. So we both kind of felt like we knew her before she came, but we met her in person for the first time when she came. She just left, but we all went into town and did chocolate making class, and then we went out tonight, and it was so nice just to do.
Yeah, we had a really nice holiday season.
Time with friends.
Yeah, it was like nice and chill, like a lot of nice dinners together, and it was fun.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. Okay, so that was. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so what do you want to do? What's next? Anything?
Yeah, so my sister was just here, as I said, and she just left. It was so nice to have her here because, as you guys may or may not know, it's so hard to have people come in cruising life because it's very hard to know our schedule. And I know people always want to know our plans. And I think until you've actually cruised, I think it's kind of hard to truly appreciate and understand why cruisers are so cryptic about their plans. But it really is because predominantly our lives are dictated by the weather and then the boat and like when it's breaking, and which it always does and stuff. So great to be at this marina. So my sister could come, and she stayed on the boat for a bit, and then she stayed on one of the properties for a little bit because she had to work. And yeah, it was fantastic, and we filmed it all. So
So
those
we are
videos will
actually
be
like we
coming
are
out.
actually leaving the marina though, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we're waiting on one more package from the States, so that's sort of majorly dictating our schedule, but we're in the final steps of getting that boat prepared to head towards the San Blas, which we're really excited for because that's going to be more like the Bahamas and back to living on the hook and tropical islands and
Yeah, so
all
it's
that stuff,
about
spearfishing and
about 200 miles away. Today, I actually spent the whole day going through all my food provisions and just figuring out what we need because it is a lot like the Bahamas. What we've been told is there are veggie boats that come out. They deliver bread, fruit, vegetables, and eggs you can get. So no dairy products though. So cheese and that stuff you have to bring, and milk and alcohol. And the villages, there's an indigenous group of people called Guna people that are there, and there is some kind of stuff in the villages, but I think it's like fresh food. So we have to go with all the staple stuff, all the
Yep.
grains. But yeah, that trip is going to be happening hopefully like in the next few days, and
yeah.
we might make some stops on the way there.
Yeah, we're not sure because I guess the swell has increased now, so it's kind of like the surf season here in Panama, especially in Bocas. So there's this really cool island called Escudo, but I don't know if it doesn't really have an anchorage that's tenable in swell, and that's like 50 miles east of here. So that would be really cool to stop. It has like these cool rivers to explore and stuff like that, but I just don't know if we will.
And the pygmy sloths.
And the pygmy sloths.
That would
I guess
be the highlight. There's pygmy sloths on this island. It's the only place in the world where they have this species of sloth called a pygmy sloth, and they're this big, but they're extremely endangered, and there's only 42, I think 100 left on the whole island. But I mean, we'd love to stop there. But anyway, we don't know exactly if we're gonna like make stops along that 200-mile passage or if we're just gonna go straight.
yeah,
TBD.
I feel like most likely just go straight at this point.
Yeah,
But,
probably. Yeah. And we have basically all of our friends have left now. Brian and Kaza left almost a week ago, and then our other friends who you guys are going to meet on video shortly. You don't know them yet, but our good friend Max, we met in the Azores
thanks,
when we were there in 2019. Sam.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, we met Max.
We met Max in the Azores. But anyway, he made his way here, and he's such a cool guy. He's young. He's 25. He has a whole crew of fun people. But anyway, we've been hanging out with him a lot, and he just left. So now we're very eager to go to San Blas. But yeah, we're just waiting on like one package.
Yeah, so.
And we've been putting off provisioning because it's going to be a little brutal. But that's coming up this week too.
And I'm having a slight issue with the batteries, maybe.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. Like right now, we're running shore power for the air conditioning, but we don't have the battery charger on. So we're trying to run them down and see what the voltage level gets to. Because I fixed one thing I think I found, but I just want to make sure we could live off the grid successfully. So we're doing a little bit of stress test in the last couple of days on the batteries in the slip.
Yeah, I guess so. Bill, you first noticed a potential issue when you left Mexico.
Yeah, the boat.
Marissa, thank you.
The boat actually shut down. We didn't film it, but the boat actually shut itself off coming from Mexico, meaning the batteries just got too low, and the computer inside shuts the computer off. The BMS shuts down the batteries on lithiums. They don't so they all turned off. We were able to get them back on, no issue, but there seems to be something off, and I found a couple wiring issues, but we're still seeing if everything's working. So
yeah, we've had to do like tests because we're plugged into the dock power, shore power. It's a little bit harder to determine what's going on. And that's one of the reasons when we moved to the boat, we kind of found some new things because it's complicated. But
yeah, it wasn't. So I think we were having a charging issue. I see someone asked faulty wiring. There's a charging issue where we have two banks of batteries, and so one bank gets the inverter charger power directly, and then the other one is connected through a battery switch to combine the two banks. I think the battery switch was creating resistance or had a problem in it, so I bypassed the battery switch and wired the 6 batteries all together to make one bank. And that seemed to help a bit, but I feel like there might still be one weak battery in the group, which would mean I'd have to shut the whole boat down and take the refrigerators off and everything and have to let the battery sit for a while to get to a resting voltage and find a bad one. So I don't know. That's going to be the next thing if we have trouble living off batteries for the next few days.
Yeah, and there's some kind of related to that. Oh, thank you, Lon. Oh, kind of related to that. There's like some battery wiring cleanup basically that needs to be done. And we were going to talk about this later, but at some point we have to do a haul out and do some boat work, and that will be when we kind of, because we have so much power that we, there could be some issues with like the weak battery, like Bill said, and we can kind of maybe get by without kind of dealing with it. Because we want to go to San Blas, and we have a bunch of other boat work to do anyway, like that's kind of coming up on the horizon. So we'll see how much digging we actually do.
Yeah. So to be TBD on that one.
TBD on that one. I just want to go through. Thank you, Lon, for my birthday gift, and Marissa and Sam. I'm so happy that you guys are in St. Augustine. Love St. Augustine. Let's just see if we can take a couple questions before we talk about Finland. Wow. Where are we going? San Blas. Yeah, if you guys like Google it, we got an idea. Happy birthday, thank you. Oh, I like that. 50 is the new 30, so you only turn 20.
Something like that.
I love it. How is Panama's chocolate? It's a good question, George Mean. It's really good. And they actually, Bocas del Toro is the only place in Panama where they make chocolate. Because I think this is like a global thing, but there's quite a lot of places in the world where there's like large international companies that have like taken over, I guess, like the industry. Because this was kind of going on in Grenada, though not as badly. So Panamanians are trying to kind of like take some of that power back and maybe, produce more chocolate and have kind of their own like brands and stuff. They don't really, but it is very good chocolate. They supply chocolate. I think they're one of the top 10 suppliers in the world of chocolate, and it's very good. It reminds me, it's like as good as Grenadian chocolate, I would say.
Already sent a birthday donation. Huh?
Oh, Tracy. We actually have
PayPal.
Yeah, we have a PayPal
and Venmo.
That's both under Calico Skies. That's really sweet. How is the Servo GX?
I love the Servo GX.
We were just editing the video on the Servo GX.
Shane actually picked up a Servo GX in Annapolis for us, and it basically just connects all our Victron equipment together and makes monitoring the batteries so much easier. So we have 4 Victron solar controllers, we have the battery monitor, we have the inverter charger, all from Victron, and the Servo takes all the data from that and combines it into one easy-to-read screen. So that was a pretty cool upgrade to the boat, and I stared at it all day playing with it, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was like watching our footage, and I was like, so it's basically a screen. like Servo GX is just it's a display screen.
Well, the Servo's a box that takes it all together.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. But for those of you who need things dumped down,
you guys will like it. It's pretty cool. We'll show it to you in the next episode installing it.
They have caimans. There's a caiman that lives here actually, Christian. And I think it's so hysterical. He happens to live in like this little river that has a public pathway on it and a little bridge. So there's a sign. He's living in quite a public place, but we've seen him multiple times. Missing it, really cute. Let's see what else we have. Tell Dulles to do an update on their sat dome. They'd have to turn their satellite dome on first, which they haven't done in a little while. They're taking a very well-deserved break from everything. I think they're going to be getting kind of like back online now, but
we'll be needing that dome in the San Blas though. So,
and we took a break too. We took a week break, and it was really nice. Everybody has to take a break. What big projects are you going to do once you go on the hard?
The hard. We kind of punted on. We're supposed to haul out the boat before the new year, and we kind of punted on that one. Yeah. It was just too disruptive. But we need to go down to the Bear Hull, so it's going to be a lot of sanding. We don't have a depth transducer, so I have to rip out the old one and put in a new one. So actually, funny enough, people kept commenting on the YouTube videos about a depth sounder that you could put it in a glass and it'll shoot through the hull, the depth sounder. So I put it in a wine glass and shoved it in the bilge, and it actually reads accurately through the hull.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to use in San Blas.
Talk about Beverly Hillbillies, right? We're going to have a wine glass depth sounder and a bilge to go through the San Blas, but we just don't have it in us right now to haul the boat. There's so many other systems that needed maintenance when we came in. like I basically been working full time on a boat as it is, so a haul out would have just added to the stress of all that. So
And it's a good thing it works because sandblast is one of those places that you kind of sort of want a depth sounder. Like there are reefs and shallow areas, so it's great that we have a solution that's going to work until we can haul out. Because basically, we want to haul out closer to where sandblast is.
I think
like,
audio's cutting out.
the
Why?
shelter. Oh, it's probably the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we're still cutting out. I don't know.
Are we still cutting out, guys? Anybody cutting out?
Hmm.
So we scroll down. Audio, please.
Hmm.
Lost your connection.
Like,
No, you're fine. It's okay, some people can hear. It's probably a weak. We have a weak Wi-Fi, basically. It kind
Yeah.
of goes in and out.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. So we were just saying, thanks for letting us know. We were just saying that we want to haul out basically kind of close to sandblast. So we want to get up into that area, and yeah, we want to go to sandblast first. So that's why we're not hauling out now. But yeah, the depth sounder we need to install. We need bottom paint.
Yep. We got a forward scan transducer going in.
Right.
So that's just general bottom maintenance. It's been last time we hauled a boat was January of 2020. So it's gonna be 2 years now. So it's about time.
We need a survey. Anybody knows?
Yeah, the survey is gonna be interesting too, because from the research I'm doing, a lot of the insurance companies don't like the lithium batteries, even though they're drop-ins. Like the batteries we have on board are certified to fly in an airplane. So that's going to be an interesting one too, because we don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do about that. Like, so it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yep. So yeah, see when that hollow happens. But I think the plan is to spend, what do we think, 2 or 3 months in sandblast? Anywhere between 2 and 3 months in sandblast, probably closer to 3. We're going to be diving. That's going to be basically the majority of what you can do in sandblast. There's really probably not, I don't think there's that much going on, which is fine. So we'll spend that time doing that, and then we'll probably go haul out the boat somewhere.
yeah. Why? So it seems like it's funny. Some people are having trouble with the stream quality, some are not. I don't get that.
I'm so sorry, guys.
And there's not really much I could do about it because it's kind of
No. It's just sometimes crappy. Shelter Bay Marina, yeah, a lot of people have said to do that.
Yeah, and we have been talking about maybe doing the canal again. I don't think we would do the Pacific this year because I think it's just not open enough and there's too much unknown of the Omicron variant. But we have talked about going to the other side and maybe exploring Costa Rica. Like it's supposed to be pretty wild over there. So that is an idea. Or we might just stay on the side, but
San Andreas.
or we go. Yeah, someone did mention San Andreas. I think that's supposed to be a pretty cool island too. We passed it on the way down.
I just saw someone asked how the boat was when we got back. And there's a new video out on Patreon. So if you're patrons, you've seen it, maybe. If not, that video is going to come out
next Saturday.
But the long story short is it was very dirty and moldy. So it's humid here. And we had a tarp put up, and that trapped a lot of wetness, which I guess could be expected. We did learn, so we left a lot of lines out on deck. That was a mistake. We should have just put them away, and then we wouldn't have had to clean them when we got back. Inside, the boat did pretty well. There was some surface mold, though, but not much more than we would normally grow if we were here, because in a humid place over a few months, we'll grow little bits of mold.
Yeah, our friends who have been living out on Anchor here in Panama, it sounds like they have like pretty rampant mold issues, just because the environment is so moist here and damp. Yeah, so it seems like it's almost like a maintenance thing when you live in a rainforest. So
everything was fine. The only thing that was wrong was our water heater was broken.
Yeah, our water heater rusted through. Finally, I think
that had nothing to do with leave. I don't think that had anything to do with leaving it. It just, we don't know if it did. But
so that came in. We have that installed now. It took me like 3 days. I didn't think it would take that long, but it was a pretty major pain in the butt. As usual, became a real boat project. it was 4 hoses. I don't know how it took me 3 days to put 4 hoses on, but you know how these things go when you don't have access or space, and you have to reroute cooling lines from the engine and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah, and then the hose was like this.
yeah, it was like
this much.
that much off. So then I had to go reroute it again. So yeah, but yeah, that was the main thing that failed, I guess.
Yeah, and we don't really need. Well, we're at the docks. We don't need hot water, but you don't really need hot water here. So it's pretty warm, but it's nice to have. I like a warm shower after I dive. If I've been diving for like hours, it get really cold. So yeah, it's good to have that working.
Maybe we should ask one of Jeff's questions. I think we're
Jeff.
Jeff wants to know. Jeff is the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who ran the boat show for all the YouTubers that I worked with all summer. He wants to know your time back in the States. What was your favorite time in the States? I mean, I think the Annapolis boat show had to be up there.
Yeah, probably the show.
The
and seeing family.
Yeah,
that was good.
The Annapolis boat show was pretty fun though.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was kind of surreal to go back to like a land life for a bit. It was a strange perspective. Like we've been on board a boat for 5 years, so to go back into society for a bit was a bit of a cluster.
Yeah,
it was fun, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, you get really used to the pace in boating, and I don't know, it's just a very different life. So I think we struggled a little bit towards the end, but it was like a good thing to do. We haven't seen family in a long time. And the boat show, I mean, that was phenomenal. We got to meet so many of our patrons and just people that follow our videos and support us. And it just feels like more of a community now. And like some of our patrons that met each other at the show are starting to hang out. And
yeah, it's really cool to build a community. Like, it's really special.
Yeah, meeting people in person is very special. So
yeah, I guess that's one of the highlights. Like I think when you make videos, you see numbers, but you don't realize like real people behind the other side, like we're just talking to like right now, but I think people you're with and commenting with and online. Are we back? Taylor was at the boat show, yes. Taylor's always good fun. We miss her. Hopefully she gets her boat down here soon.
Yeah, back a bit. I think we're missing some questions. Sorry, guys. Could probably use a moderator. Let me go back up here.
Other YouTubers. So we actually met this other couple channel called One Life. We hung up them last night. They're about our age, and she's an ex-accountant, and they're really fun to hang out with.
Super fun.
They've already done the San Blas, and they're heading for the canal, whereas we are heading for San Blas first. But that's been really fun to meet up. We have a lot of mutual friends in the sailing community. I think Parlay's in San Blas. We haven't, once we get there, we'll kind of suss out where everyone else is and see who we can meet.
Yeah. What are your travel plans for the next year? We really don't know past San Blas. Either Colombia, San Andreas, or I don't know, maybe going through the canal. We really have no idea. You're not crossing the Pacific, though. So that's one thing we know for sure, right?
Yeah, I think it's too hard right now.
Are you still happy with your windlass amount? It's an interesting question, actually.
Windlass has held up well. Windlass has held up well, but the windlass remotes aren't that good. That seems to break on us every like 6 months. So yeah, but the windlass install is done well. All right, what else do we got on our agenda? Nothing really any questions here.
Tracy, we will send it to you. Thank you. Okay, moving down. I think we missed.
We had a couple other patron questions that people sent in.
Yeah, we have patron questions. We should probably, I think we should do those. Good call. Okay. So Matt asked us, what have you discovered about liveaboard sailing that has surprised you? Has it changed your outlook on how you approach adversity? Did taking a break from sailing this past summer change your thinking? It's a really good question.
I mean, there's a whole lot of adversity in this lifestyle. I think mental fortitude is a big one to crossing oceans and stuff like that. So I think like the challenges that we faced when we lived on land are very different than the challenges we face now. But I think it does harden you. Like I think you learn to take a step back and go through things more methodically, and like when disasters occur at sea, like we just don't panic. We try to remain calm and just think our way through it.
Yeah, I think you just sort of have to, because you're on your own, I guess, in that respect.
Yep.
But live aboard sailing, I mean, I'm surprised that I don't miss the things that I thought I would miss when I quit my job, I guess 4.5 years ago. I worked out every day. I had a routine that I really enjoyed. I was really nervous about kind of being able to have a routine on the boat. But I think for me, at least personally, like I've changed a lot. I'm still very active, but yeah, I've adapted to kind of the life.
Less stuff, yeah, simpler.
Yeah, I enjoy having less things. And it just seemed like such a huge decision, and it was such a huge decision at the time. But yeah. And then going back to the summer, that was like one part of the question that was,
Did taking a break from sailing this past summer change your thinking?
to be honest, I think we decided we can't take a break from the boat for 4 months anymore.
Yeah, I think
It was too long. I think 2 or 3 months would probably be our sweet spot if we did that again.
Yeah, it is your home, you know,
It's
and
our home, and I think it's like fundamentally changed us. I really do. We just, I don't know. We're just so used to. It's funny because this life is so hard, and you don't have as much like flexibility at all, and you don't have as many options for things, but you have like a type of it's so addicting. It's such that I think it's hard.
yeah,
Being on land is
just too different for us after 5 years of doing this. It's funny. I mean, you wouldn't expect that. Prep for the bottom. Well, so we have all the stuff to do our bottom job. Yes. So Total Boat was actually awesome and sent us like a pallet of stuff down here. But the unfortunate thing is now we're storing like an entire locker full of bottom paint and barrier coats, and because we decided not to do the bottom. So our life raft is now on deck because we couldn't fit it in our sail locker. So we're sailing around with like 200 pounds of bottom paint stuff.
Yes.
But
Total Boat hooked us up. They're
typical Calico Skies.
They're so great, these guys. And yeah, we're just going to be sailing around with, we're like listing slightly to the port side now.
We have everything in our big sail locker. Our port side sail locker is full of bottom supplies. So
but we looked into hauling here. It just, I don't know. It's just not super ideal.
No,
there's no super ideal place.
Yeah, the yard here is sort of like in the middle of the jungle, and they turn off the power at night. So it's kind of, I don't know if it'd be a comfortable place to haul the boat out. So we kind of skipped on that one here. We'll wait till we head further east.
Okay, how does Panama rank compared to other places you've cruised? That's a really good question. That was from a patron. I mean, it's pretty up there for me.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. This is the biodiversity.
Yeah.
I mean, a little more wind would be nice. Like, it isn't the best sailing ground per se.
It
seems like it's a lot of motoring so far. Like, the wind is often too light to sail. So, and it makes it a little hotter. Like, it's the air so still. But in terms of, you know, like animals and jungles and hiking and diving, like there's a very good mix of like typical cruising activities. So
it's not a huge amount of cruisers. That's one, or like there's not a lot of people, which is great. It's not like the Caribbean or something where it's like really crowded. So it doesn't feel like Eastern Caribbean.
Yeah, like it feels a little more off the beaten path. Like it feels like more of a real travel experience rather than like Eastern Caribbean tends to almost be like a tourist destination at this point. Like you're in Disney World or something. It's like beach bars and, you know, there's just a different vibe. Like this is more real and off the beaten path. I
guess the other thing is the diving is not exceptional here. It can be good in certain good to very good in certain seasons, but just not like all year round.
I think San Blas will be different.
But San Blas, so yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, San Blas is a part of Panama, and that's supposed to have incredible diving. So it's just, you know, I mean, we've stayed here a long time though for us. So I think that says a lot about how we feel about. And then that inland trip we did, which you guys will see on video in a couple weeks, like that was super cool because that was a different kind of like terrain and everything, being in the mountains. So Panama has a lot to offer. I suspect this whole like region does because we've never really been to Central. So we love it. It's definitely way up there for cruising destinations.
Yep.
How do you deal with interpersonal conflict? Asked how we deal with interpersonal conflict on the boat, which I take to mean is like spousal conflict, because that's like
We're
the
only two
main.
people. We're only two people on board.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the same as always, though. It's just like communicate your way through it. It's obviously more of a
Yeah.
pressure cooker because the space is limited.
Yeah,
Like,
that's actually the hardest thing for us, because now that we're working, like I'm working on editing while Bill's blowing up the boat, and
yeah,
it's out, and it's like the space can be really tough.
it's kind of unfortunate that like our engine room is in the living room.
But I think the thing about cruising that's so interesting is that you kind of have to be a team. Like maybe that's why some people just can't do it, because like you can't, like there's no space for not resolving conflicts. Like literally there's no physical space. And we feel like much more of a team now that we're doing this life than we did on land, and we were together for a really long time. But I think it's just such a hard life in a lot of ways. Like you have to be on the same team, and you both want the same things, and you kind of want the same thing that's different from what other people want, so it does give you that bond. And so I think we just try and thrive off that in times of when things are hard, because I have a lot of breakdowns that don't make it on film, just things that are like, it's getting easier. Like I will say, like I think it gets easier cruising over time, because you really do learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, like
and
we did a podcast last night with actually with Max, who like wanted to interview us, and he was asking like, what would you tell new sailors? And one of the things that kind of stuck with me is it does get easier. Like when I first started, every time something broke or just stealing the boat was very stressful. But I think as you get more experience and more confident problem solving, what breaks becomes less of a burden to you. It's like you always expect the boat to be broken, and you just manage it. Whereas it was kind of like devastating when I first started. So I think it does get easier.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge, the way I would try to articulate it, is that in cruising life, the results of things are much more immediate. So like I feel like in land you can like put things off in different respects and kind of deal with the consequence over time. But in cruising, the decisions you make, like the consequences of your decisions, are very obvious, and they're often very immediate. So what you learn over time is, one big thing in general is just like taking care of things sooner rather than later, just across the board, and it just makes life happier. It's like a lot of the things you hear as like a kid, or like your parents tell you, but you don't really like have to do, because like land life's so convenient. But then you get out here and it is kind of like going back in time a little bit. It's like you have to like get up, you have to use your time wisely. You can't, like, there's just certain things that if you don't do will screw you so bad that
we
like
sort of have
it's not worth it.
We have a lot of freedom, I guess. Like we have the freedom to fix it or not fix it, or like
Yeah.
deal with something or not deal with it. So like you kind of take control of your own destiny a little more than you do like on a land-based life. But
Exactly.
it often comes back and bites you if you like punt something down the road. It does usually bite me. So I think that's one thing I've learned too from years of doing this.
And also when you learn a lesson, you feel the positive consequences too so much more too, right? Like over time, it feels really good to like made a certain mistake over and over and then finally get it right, and like it'll stay right kind of for a while. It's like there are really rewarding moments. It's just you have to be patient, I think, is the big thing with this life. Yeah, I don't know if that was like really an answer to that question, but
let's see, how is the latest COVID surge impacting your future travel plans? I guess it's not really changing, because we kind of plan to keep ourselves pretty limited in terms of travel. We're not planning on making any major moves until it settles down a little bit. I just think the main problem with the Pacific is there's no cyclone season berths. So if we could stay in French Polynesia, we'd be outside the cyclone zone, but we don't have an EU passport, so we can't do that. So Fiji's open, but there's like 500 boats there and 100 hurricane berths, so that wouldn't work. And Australia and New Zealand are pretty much shut. So if we cross the Pacific, we'd be in a risk for a cyclone season. So COVID, until that kind of clears up and countries are allowing free travel, we're probably Central America. Really, because Panama has been open the entire pandemic. Probably because the Panama Canal, they can't really shut that down, so they've been accepting entries. So I think until things quiet, we're kind of in a holding pattern here, which is the worst places in the world to be. Living on a boat versus New York City apartment.
They're both small. Let's see. New York was I didn't really realize like how sterile the environment was until I got I'm like realizing it so much more now that I'm here in this jungle because I love animals. But it's very different. I mean, I loved my experience in New York in a lot of ways. It's an incredible city. It was a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But it is interesting to me that something so great could also have like a shelf life. I mean, I feel like I left at the right time, but I didn't feel like that when I left. Looking back on it, you know, I spent a decade there, and that was like just a good amount of time to experience a lot that New York and other areas, because we cruised a lot outside New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. So we saw a lot of like New England, and that was great. It's fantastic. But yeah, we would never. Bill,
I'm not
a
going back to New
little
York for a bit.
less of a good time than I did.
Let's see anymore.
But yeah, I mean, boat living it's like hard, but it's simple. Because I will say, like when we were in the apartment in Annapolis, there's so much space, which is nice, but it's like the boat is very tailored to our needs. Like it's very good for two people. Everything's very physically close. Every single thing has a spot and has a home because, you know, it's just the way it is. You can't accumulate things. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's...
I don't know if we answered that one.
I don't know if I really answered that question. I'm sorry. I tried.
Do you ever find yourself getting materials piled up for multiple projects and have to say stop until you get caught up? Yeah, that is. I mean,
That is a hard one.
The paint's kind of a lot. We have instruments all over the place, like transducers right now. So
yeah, that's one thing.
But
going back to the conversation we had earlier about space, you know, like in a perfect world, I think like one feature of a perfect cruising boat we both agree on would be like having a dedicated workspace, like where there's maybe a vice grip and there's shelves and you can like house stuff.
Yeah, like a tool room would be nice because
yeah,
so much of this life is, you know,
works
fixing
in
and
progress.
working and like it's
It
not
is
ideal.
hard.
But like the thing is, we can't easily get electronics to Panama, so we have to travel with them. And, you know, it's just sort of how it works. So yeah.
Okay.
If money was no object, what size boat would you buy? I definitely wouldn't get anything so big that we need a crew.
Yeah,
like I wouldn't.
Too much
I like
bigger.
I like running the boat on my own.
Like 40?
Probably 40s, mid 40s.
42?
I don't think we'd go. Yeah, huge.
I think more than size, what our focus would be on. I mean, that's a hard question because our boat is very fast and very solidly built, and that's always kind of like something you don't give up being solidly built, but you sometimes give up speed with cruising boats. But
it's probably somewhere a little bit bigger. Like
yeah,
just a little bit more storage would be nice. I think the fuel tank would be a bigger fuel tank would be nice. Like, you know how many times I've had it's an 18-gallon main tank. You know how many times I've had to fill that thing up from jerry cans?
Yeah,
like every time we motor, I have to
cruising. That's more cruising. Like our transom is kind of a problem because we don't really have a transom. Well,
you mean like
we don't have like a
swim platform? You mean?
Yeah, like it's that whole area. Like we can't. It's hard to have a wind vane and stuff. But we will say, like we always say, like having a bigger boat would be harder. Like Bill Bill cleaned the bottom the other day. We hadn't cleaned it since June, and he was able to do it in 3-4 hours, and it took Brian 3 days. So the thing is, like, we'd be very cautious about going up in size too much because everything's more expensive and harder to maintain on a bigger boat. So I guess the goal would be to just go up incrementally, you know, enough to not have too much more work to do. I'm gonna marry Taylor Francis. That's amazing.
So an ML is not an option here. I mean, I love the ML. That was my dream boat as a child, but
yeah, which is so funny.
Yeah, like as a kid, that was what I wanted, but it's pretty big. It's a pretty big boat.
Yeah.
Sabre 402. Yeah, that would be one of my, like a Sabre 40 would definitely be one of my dream boats. Cardamom. Do you have any specific time-killing hobbies? Reading, music, painting. We don't really have a lot of time for hobbies these days. It's kind of funny. Like it's
very busy.
It's all work and it's all.
You play guitar though.
Yeah, occasionally, but it's just been a lot of video editing, a lot of maintaining the boat. I guess our hobby is sailing around the world kind of thing.
We really have been very active. So there's a pool here. We've been doing laps almost every day. We either do laps or we go free diving and take the dinghy out. A
lot of walks,
walking and running. Like we've been very physically active, and then the boat takes up a good amount. And
I guess engineering is my time-consuming hobby.
Yeah.
Fixing the boat.
Yeah. We had a lot of friends come in and out. Marta's been here. My sister's been here. We reunited with Max. I can't wait for you guys to meet Max on our video from Elixir and his crew. They've been keeping us busy.
Yes, friends. So let's see. Do you guys have air conditioning? Yep. We installed air conditioning back in Florida. It's been pretty key for here because it's pretty warm. So we're really glad to have that. It's been running full time.
Hi, Scott from the Grand Canyon.
Boat speed. I mean, Delos is a lot faster because they're longer. But sailboats' speed is defined by its size, typically, it's the length of the water line. So they could go much faster, theoretically. Like, we'll max out at 7, they could do 9s and 10s. So it's pretty hard for us to keep up with them, a much smaller boat. Did the passage with crew and you guys traveling separately change your thoughts approach on passage making?
That's a great question, Mike. That was a really interesting experience for me. The passage didn't turn out to be as hard as you thought. It had the potential to be much worse weather-wise. So I probably could have done that passage without a problem. And I did struggle a lot with, I'm not used to flying, and this is going to sound like flying is its own dramatic thing sometimes. And so I had some conflicts with flying from Mexico to Panama because we'd come in on a boat. So it was a little bit stressful. And then I worked a lot, which was fine, but I didn't really get to, see anything. So, I mean, I think it was probably try it for one time. Although I will say, if it had turned out to be a really difficult passage, or if there had been any issues with pirates, I would have been probably really glad to be off the boat. So it's kind of hard to look back on that and say specifically whether I think I did the right thing. But I'm glad I tried doing it. I did have FOMO. So I definitely feel like my heart is on the boat and wants to be on the boat and wants to do passages to come. But at the same time, I've done so many bad passages. If we were to decide to do the Baja Bash tomorrow, which is one of the things we thought about doing, going up to Mexico is a tough sail. I might be tempted, but I probably wouldn't do it. I'd probably do one more bad passage and then think about it again.
Offshore sailors typically have short-term memory.
Yeah.
Because once I drop the hook, it all melts away, and you just have that excitement of completing whatever 1,000-mile sail or something. So
yeah, and things are just so fluid.
I wouldn't say you're not planning on getting off the Pacific crossing or something.
No,
so it wasn't really a long term. It's not something we're changed. It's just that it was sort of a unique circumstance at that time where we were running a pirate coast and Grace had a lot of work to do, and she knew she wouldn't be able to get the work done. So it was it made sense for that moment.
Yeah, and I've also, we talked about this on the podcast with Max last night. I have a lot of respect for traditional sailing routes. There's this book called World Cruising Routes by Jimmy Cornell. And I think the further I go in this, the wisdom that you get from people who've done this for a long time, and the things people say that people who know what they're doing, they hold more value to me now. So the easiest way to get to Panama would have been to go through the Bahamas and by Jamaica. And just because it was potentially a very bad passage, weather-wise, I just was you know what, if I'm going to sail to Panama, I don't want to really do it from Mexico. It's not a bad way to go. It's just not the most possible ideal way to go. So I've done those passages so many times. The doable but not super easy ones that I just didn't. Yeah, at the time I just didn't have.
We kind of agreed that if we went to Mexico, there was a chance that Grace would get off the boat for the passage.
Yeah.
Because she wanted to go the more traditional route, which would have taken us to the Bahamas, and I have done the Bahamas so many times. I was ready to see something different.
I think a big part of it too is kind of where you're at in life. And for me personally, I was working a lot at that time. YouTube has become much easier for me kind of recently. Learning the editing process and social media and YouTube and everything is completely not our background, and there's a steep learning curve. And I think I was just spending so much time in that mindset that I didn't have the same energy and capacity for potentially, suffering for a week and then being behind on my work. So I'm kind of in a much different headspace now. Things really have improved and gotten more efficient and easier. And
I think we've learned. I think we've learned a lot about filming, and that makes it easier to tell a story if you have better filming. So
yeah, we used to be a lot more like not care about the lighting, not care about anything, just film it, because if you're filming something real and raw, well, then it's going to be great. But the thing is, that's just not the case. There's a lot of technical things like that if you don't get right when you're filming become like a really big problem from an editing perspective. So
we've learned an awful lot
we've
about
just improved. So I think if it was like that passage was presented to me tomorrow, I'd be much more likely to do it.
Yeah.
So it's been very long-winded answer.
We've been trying to get our life in balance, and it's been working pretty well.
Yes.
Patron crew. Yeah, so actually it was patrons who came on board for the crew, which was cool.
Oh, James, thank you.
Oh, that was so nice of James. Yeah.
So nice.
How
was you guys too?
Yeah, the boat show. We definitely plan to come back up for the Annapolis boat show. It was so cool to meet everybody. We had such a good time.
A clove oil on mold. That's an interesting one.
How was the beer down there? Typical. Typical. Tastes like water. I still also drink it though.
Okay, Jamie Mantell's Island. You can find. Oh wait, 4 children.
I don't think we've seen that island.
Okay, we'll look that up, Stan. Jamie Mantell's Island. Okay, we'll check. Is there no CMs? There are like no mosquitoes in this jungle. It's crazy. There are some no-see-ums. They come out from like 5 to 6 p.m. every day, and then they're gone. But nothing like not as bad as the Bahamas.
Yeah, you wouldn't
it's so bizarre.
When you read a cruising guide, they say the most dangerous animal is a mosquito here.
Yeah.
And we haven't really.
There are places though, like Starfish Beach.
True.
A lot more bugs there. So I think this island, we're on the best island in Bocas del Toro, in my opinion. And there's no bugs. It's very strange.
Low power. I have seen Emily Clark's Adventure Low Power AC.
Yeah, we know.
I did some research because that was right around the time we were installing our air conditioner.
Yeah.
It works on Anchor, but it's not blowing. Like ours is blowing out 0 Fahrenheit air or 20-degree Fahrenheit air, whereas I think theirs is blowing out like 80-degree air. So it's going to make it comfortable, but it's not truly air conditioning. It just kind of takes the ambient air temperature down a little bit. So I'm sure it'd be nice to have, but we wanted like a full air conditioning unit that keeps the boat regulated for docks, and we can run it off our generator and stuff like that. So
yeah, we did think about it though.
I did research that though. Yeah.
I'm just gonna go up quick and lemon oil for mold. Lemon oil. Thanks, Joanne. Hobbies, long walks, for sure. Bill is not so much of a walker as me, but you've gotten a lot more into walking.
Yeah.
And you've been running on the beach and stuff too, and so. Yeah, that's been great because.
Do you spend a lot of time at a dock? Is that because you don't want to live on the Anchor or without air conditioning?
That's a good question, Sam. We were talking about this on our podcast yesterday because we never stayed in marinas for the first 4 years of our cruising. And actually, when we decided to sail back from Gibraltar and do that second transat back, we did a 27-day trip, 4,000 miles almost, because we did not want to stop in the Canary Islands. We were so eager to get back. But we left because we did not want to do 3 months stay in Morocco, because Morocco is the closest place where we could get out of Schengen, so we'd have to be on a slip for 3 months. And we were like, we can't be in a slip for 3 months. That's crazy. So it's interesting how things change. We ended up at this marina. So for one thing, our budget's gotten bigger. That was like one main reason we never stayed at marinas. Here in Bocas del Toro, this marina happens to be in a place that's like, it's almost better than anchoring because you have pretty much what you have on Anchor. I mean, not exactly, like being on Anchor is very special, but I mean, you're just surrounded by nature. It's very quiet. There's not many people here.
The property is beautiful.
The property is gorgeous. So,
I mean, air conditioning was a big factor because it was raining so much. We went through another rainy season in December where it rained every night or every day. So. Yeah. In Panama, when it's really rainy and there's no breeze, it gets very hot out on the hook. So, we're in a good season now. January and March is like really the prime time to be cruising around here.
That's another good point. We've never cruised in a place before where there was no wind and it was hot.
Yeah, really, usually there's a trade wind, and here there's really not much in the way of breeze.
There's tons of wind in the Bahamas in the winter, so that's a new thing. I feel like we've been doing more boat work almost than usual, and so that's been really great in the AC.
Yeah, because also I've struggled doing major projects on the hook before, and it's hard because you have to keep the batteries topped up. You have to make water, so there's like a running to-do list for me when we live on the hook, just maintaining status quo of the systems, and I've sort of been trying to dig in and improve a lot of the installations we've done over the years. We did a lot of kind of run and gun installations, heading down the coast, always behind the eight ball, traveling constantly. We've done a lot of moving. And this is the first time we've really sat still in 5 years. We've always done 7,000 or 8,000 miles a year, and now I think we calculated we sailed like 1,000 miles this year or something.
Yeah.
1,400. Like it wasn't much. Like for us, it wasn't a lot.
To be fair, too, I do think like if we weren't doing YouTube, it might have been less, because that aspect too adds a different element to our older cruising days, or in comparison with our older cruising days. Because when you're in Reno, one of the great things is that everything's quicker. If I want to go for a walk, I just step off the boat. There's no putting the dinghy in. There's no thinking about where we're going to leave the dinghy, locking up the dinghy. So it's nice when you're working, because you can do more. Cruising is like a very slow, like anchoring, being on anchor, life just slows you down in a lot of different respects. So yeah, that is probably a part of the answer too. So it's a whole bunch of different like factors, I would say.
Was there another dramatic parting of Sierra? Sierra didn't know we were leaving this time.
Yeah.
she just we're gonna see them probably within the next week or something though. Like
Yeah.
we're just a little bit behind because we're waiting on some stuff coming in.
Yeah, Kaza messaged me. She sends phone messages, and she was trying to explain to Nugget that she was talking to me,
but not a video.
Yeah, Nugget just
we heard her in the background.
Yeah, no dramatic. Yeah, we didn't really say goodbye this time because we're trying to catch up to them.
We will.
Thank you, Lon.
Anything? I don't know. Are there any other questions?
There was the question about the finances. I don't know.
Oh yeah, one of our patrons wanted to ask us, how do we keep track of all? This is like an accountant question, but we both were ex-accountants, so how do we keep track of all the different income sources for the channel and all the expenses? How do you keep track of it? So we basically, it's kind of funny, but when we were back in the States, one of the things we did was open up a checking account for our LLC. And we have a company, like the YouTube channel is an LLC, and all the associated expenses for the boat flow through there. So we have a separate credit card for our business, and we have a separate checking account that takes like PayPal and YouTube and Patreon. So we did set it up properly when we were in the States, because it seems important to have that like cleanliness of our records, especially being ex-accountants. We had to do it right.
Yeah, it was something that like we knew could be an issue if we
ever got audited or something. So yeah, we do have it. We have it set up properly, a Delaware LLC and bank accounts and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you basically do all of that stuff.
I do bookkeeping every month. Yeah,
so the bookkeeper.
I do actually we keep records like we're supposed to. Yeah. Anything else? I don't know. Any more questions for anybody? I think that's all. We really.
Thanks so much, Sam. I just want to say that we are so excited for the new year, and we have so many fun ideas for our videos and stuff, and so we're really looking forward to this year, and we're so happy that you guys found us and enjoy watching. And also, we so appreciate your feedback. If there's anything that you want to see more of, or things that you don't like, that bother you, whatever, yeah, we won't be offended. Just give it to us. It does help. We don't have YouTube backgrounds. We don't really watch a lot of YouTube, so it's like great to hear.
Like someone caught a rendering issue that we had no idea about. Like there was a comment about our video being grainy, and we had no idea that we had like export settings wrong in Premiere.
So we called Brian and we're like, "What do you guys do?" And so then we changed our settings, and it like changed everything.
We review everything online when we upload it to YouTube, so we're kind of had the assumption that it's a bandwidth issue. We didn't realize it's actually slowed down in our export. So those kind of things help us because we don't always know the right answer, and we're kind of figuring out as we go. So
yeah, we haven't done. Chris just asked if we've done a budget video. We haven't done a budget video or a boat tour yet, which is really bad. We started filming a boat tour and then we got distracted. But so accountants were really bad at like accounting stuff.
Budget's so hard because the boat is so variable.
But we could do one. Like we could, yeah. But so what Bill wants to say is that like what we have, like the water heater, that was really expensive, and that's probably original, so that might never break again. So that was a huge expense that just like hit us out of nowhere, and that happens a lot on the boat. It's much more like bigger expenses that hit suddenly, or upgrades that you have to make or choose to make, rather than like little things. Like we don't spend money on diesel. Like we're rarely at marinas.
Yeah,
Insurance is like,
yeah,
I mean,
expensive,
but and like you don't even have to have insurance. Like,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, our monthly monthly bills are not that much. Just like the
yeah.
boat, just on a boat,
We just break
$1,000 here,
but
$1,000 there.
we could do that. And maybe we could try to do that for this year and actually
Track of what we spent.
kind of like keep track of boat expenses. I think the boat expenses are the most interesting, I would think, just because the other stuff, like, it's so personal. I mean, we basically don't go out to eat very much. I mean, the boat is our most expensive thing, right? And then like we kind of are always trying to just like not spend a lot of money in other areas, and we don't. So we don't really do a lot of like excursions. We don't really travel much off the boat. We don't buy anything. So those expenses are minimal. But I think the boat ones would be really interesting to people. Maybe like doing like an everyday like kind of fees versus like a project or something.
Do you have a mortgage? We have no mortgage, luckily, no debt. We paid all
No.
that stuff off before we
That is
took
the
off.
biggest reason we're able to do that. And we get a lot of comments saying, why don't you guys get a bigger boat? But we bought the boat back when we were working in New York just to like sail around with, and paid it off while we were working. And then for the last 3 years or 4 years before we went cruising, we saved money. We lived on the boat, we gave up our apartments and saved money to cruise. And that's how we were able to do it for the first 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. So that's, I mean, we're definitely not in a position where we could buy any boat anytime soon. So that's one main reason we're going to be on this boat. It's very freeing, because that is the biggest expense, is buying a boat and then upgrading it, because we upgraded it in New York and continue to upgrade it now. So
yeah, it's kind of set up how we want it to. It would cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars like to get another boat, at least $100,000 to get a boat set up like this one is. By the time you start doing sales and electronics and lithium batteries and wind generators and solar panels, like that stuff adds up really quick. So we've been able to do it slowly and surely and kind of just keep up with it.
It is fascinating though, and I think that's why people have such an appetite for, like, I think someone mentioned liking the smaller boats and like Uma and stuff. It's fascinating how you can kind of do it on any budget. I mean, I guess that's kind of a very blanket statement to make, but we meet cruisers that are doing it with so much less and having a good time, and then so much more. So I mean, it's kind of like land life. It's pretty like personal in a way, like what you think you need and like what you want to spend money on now. And like there's things that we have now that I can't believe we never had, but we were fine without them. Like we actually had an ice box. The boat originally came with an ice box when we got it, and we used to get big blocks of ice, and that we had that for the first 5 years of cruising, and it was like a little bit annoying.
And now we have a fridge and a freezer, because we have two separate units, and I don't know how. I think as more years you spend doing this too, like the more you want your comfort to increase. Like I think the first couple of years of cruising, you're okay with kind of camping it and roughing a little bit more, but I think when it becomes more of your life and you're spending a significant part of your life doing this, I think you do want the comforts start being a little more important. Like we're not as willing to sweat as much, or it just became a little bit different after I've been 6 years of this lifestyle. So I'm 37, so that's like a sixth of my life I've been on a boat. So
Will's a better cook when it comes to meats. He does all the grilling, and I'd say I'm a better cook for
everything.
You're good at breakfast too.
Insurance is expensive, but I mean our insurance policy for the boat is $3,000 or $4,000 a year, I think. So that adds up. Health insurance we just keep catastrophic, so it's not that much. So it's like a $10,000 deductible. So it would hurt if something happened. But healthcare is usually pretty cheap for minor things. In these countries, it's more if something major happened, we keep that policy for.
We don't go to the doctor as much as we should, or the dentist.
But we have like drugs on board and stuff that we need. So we keep a good med kit.
You can see there. Yeah, you're not wrong, Chris. It's a huge when people do that, when they give this budget stuff. I'm sure
it's probably helpful.
Yeah, it sure is.
How much sailing experience we had before we bought the boat? I grew up sailing as a kid, but it was mostly on smaller boats, and I was never in charge of it. It was like my parents' boat, so this was the first boat I was like skipper of. But it's worked out well. Yeah,
I had no sailing experience. I didn't know that I'd be doing this when we bought the boat. I thought we'd just be like sailing around. So, what's the strangest thing that we've seen offshore? Definitely that weird fish. We were telling Max last night when we did this podcast that we'll let you guys know when it comes out, but we were sailing from the Bahamas to the Caribbean like 3 years ago. And we went, this was before I knew about Jimmy Cornell and World Cruising Routes. And we just took the rum line, which means like a straight line from where we were to where we wanted to go. We didn't go 400 miles east, which is the recommended route. And so we had to contend with a horrible current. The boat was leaking. It was a 7-day passage. I was soaking wet. We were beating up wind for 6 out of 7 of those days. And it was so rough that we were just like looking outside and coming down below. Well, we had our fishing lines out and we were passing over the Puerto Rican Trench, which is the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out at night and realized that like there was something in our cockpit, and what it was this 4.5 foot long fish that was super skinny. It was like this skinny, it had really sharp teeth and like a really long snout, and it was like green. And we were just trying to process like what this thing was, and then it was so rough that the generator actually fell and
On
like
its head.
hit it in the head and killed it.
Oh, Jesus.
When I was trying to film it. But it actually took me 3 years to identify it because it had like an overbite. There's this species of fish that has like an underbite that kind of looks like that fish. And I actually have to look up what it is.
I don't remember,
the name of it now, but the bottom line is that this fish came from super freaking deep. Like, I forget like where it lived, like how many feet deep that it lived, but that's the craziest thing I think I've ever seen offshore.
Yeah.
Other than those lights, that one time when we did our first transat and there was those random lights.
I remember that one.
That were just fixed.
Took the total cost of the boat and divided that number of years you've owned it. You know that number.
Yeah,
We bought the boat for $65,000 in 2009. So, but I mean, we must have put another $60,000 into the boat over the years, though.
Yeah, or
presumably.
more. So the thing is, when we were in New York, those first years, because we owned the boat now for almost 12 years. So the first like 3 to 5 years we owned the boat, we didn't do any of the work ourselves because we didn't know how. And we also were making enough money that we were going to spend it on that. So I don't even know, because labor is the most expensive thing. In New York, it was $100 an hour to do anything on the boat. So, yeah. Then we started doing things ourselves. That reduced the cost significantly. But yeah, we probably couldn't go back to the beginning of time. We could maybe go back to the beginning of cruising, though.
Yeah,
which would be about 5 years. At least what the boat cost. I'd say
another
at least what the boat cost.
You think about a water maker, like $7,000, right? Or so wind generator's $1,000. Like if you just add up all the parts, it's expensive.
And it's not a cruising boat; it's a coastal cruiser. So it didn't, as I said, like it had the ice box for a fridge. It doesn't have a lot of the things that a cruising boat in that size would have for that price. So we had to put all those things onto it.
Yeah, exactly. How do we decide what spare parts to carry?
That's a great question, and it's evolved a lot over the years.
I'm still not even sure if I have enough.
As much as we can physically fit. So anything that's super important, like an autopilot. We just think about things we wouldn't want to be somewhere in the middle of nowhere with and have no backup for. So we have spare pumps, we have spare autopilot, anything like really
like we have a complete head assembly, like for the bathroom, like that. We have a complete one of those. We have fresh water pumps. We have alternators. We have pumps for the engine.
Before we cross the Pacific, we're gonna be doing even more. Like we need to up our fridge redundancy game. We don't have any like backup for that. So basically, anything that is important to you that you don't want to be stuck needing to deal with somewhere, you have to kind of have.
Even like basic materials, like a lot of like screws and like even like we broke a step on the stairs somehow. Like it just cracked the wood and like a piece of starboard around that you could splice the stairs back together. Like just everything's on the boat, and it makes it much easier if you don't have to go to a hardware store and start running around town trying to find the stuff. Like I just had the parts on board, and I was able to fix it pretty quickly.
We call the aft cabin the garage, and we get a lot of questions on YouTube about why our boat's such a mess. But I mean, besides food, the only other thing on this boat is parts and tools, and that stuff takes up. I mean, the more tools you can carry and the more stuff you have, like the happier you'll be. You'll always use like anything you can imagine on a boat. Or other people's stuff because we can't fit everything. But answer that question.
I mean, even like when I was working on the batteries, like I had spare battery cable. Like that would have been really hard to find.
Hi.
So yeah, all that stuff is good to have apart.
Was
Was
it
our
listed in Greenport?
no, our boat was in the Merrimack, so on the Long Island Sound still.
Have you been afraid for your life? Yeah, I have. We just talked about this on this podcast. We were crossing our second transat from Europe here. We had a really bad crash jibe, which is like we were going downwind and the boom basically like swung violently from one side of the boat to the other. We broke a bunch of stuff. But the scariest part was like a couple days later. We heard a bunch of weird creaking and booming sounds. And then like 2 days after that happened, and we were hearing these sounds in the middle of the night when I was on watch, there's these little like, they look like pegs. There's these wooden like things that go around the mast that there's like 10 of them maybe.
Mast shim.
They're called mast shims, but I was on watch down below and they fell out of the mast. Like I heard sounded like an explosion, and then they started falling, and I could actually see when I turned the light on that the mast was swaying inside the boat basically. And I was really freaked out because I didn't know at first that those aren't structural. That like when we had the crash drive, we basically moved a bunch of stuff and it shifted things, and because we broke our traveler and everything, and those pegs came out. But we were 2,000 miles away from land, and I guess I wasn't afraid for my life.
I think the only time I was afraid for my life was we were in a gale in the Gulf Stream off North Carolina, and I guess blowing like in the 40s, and we had been down below all night with the boards closed and everything, and I came up on deck at dawn, and I didn't realize how much the sea state had increased, and how close and stacked the waves were. So when I came up on deck at dawn, the bow was like so close to the wave in front of it. So it was like, I think we were in 25-foot waves, the buoy said, and the boat was pitched down like this kind of angle, and the bow was kind of like close to tripping on the front edge of the wave in front of it. And I thought if the bow grabbed, we could like roll ourselves. So that was scary, but we probably been running it all night, not knowing it. And we just took the boat speed down from 7 or 8 knots down to 5 or 6, and everything got a lot more stable. But I think that was the only time I came on deck and I was like, oh shit. And Grace was like, don't you say oh shit. So that wasn't good.
That was pretty scary.
Yeah. That was pretty scary, yeah.
Because you just don't know, like, you learn over time. I mean, at least with our boat, it can take a lot of pressure, but like, you don't really know.
You also don't want to roll somewhere to lose a rig and everything.
Yeah.
So that was probably the scariest one for me. It's a nasty. Sailing courses. I didn't really take any sailing courses. No, it's all been self-taught. I considered getting my captain's license. My grandfather, but I never did any formal training. Like my grandfather taught me. I did like half a celestial navigation course, but they were taking too long. So the sailing season started. I got bored.
Yeah, it was back in New York.
Yeah, EOD would be a great boat. We've been on Sam's boat. It's a pretty sweet boat. Crocodiles. When you opened your new account, where did you do it? We did it in Arizona with Grace's sister. Our home address. So there's a service for sailors in Green Cove Springs, Florida. And they basically provide a mailing address, like not a PO box, like a physical where we live technically. So we're Florida residents, and they get our mail and they scan it to us, and there's a website that we check our mail. So that's kind of how we. There's a service called SBI, St. Brandon's Isle.
Skipper's Boss. I think that's a cool idea. 3D printer. I'm very fascinated with those. Yeah, I don't know if we're like tech savvy enough. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, we'd have to know like AutoCAD or something probably.
Yeah.
Make sure to keep stuff for the guitar. Yeah, the guitar has to stay with me.
We've never had a lightning strike. We've been very
don't
lucky.
Don't want anything to do with that.
Yes, we will be doing an eventual Pacific crossing. I think 2023.
Hopefully,
maybe it's like
hopefully the world clears up again. You know, I don't know.
I feel like we're going to be cruising with Delos for a while.
It's so hard to know.
It's so hard to know, but we've gotten very close to them. And
yeah, it's been almost 2 years now, but I think it wouldn't be surprising. I mean, it's always see you later in this life anyway. You know, like I mean, especially in an ocean as big as the Pacific, like hard to stay in touch, but we'll definitely be running.
How about sending packages? That's a hard one. It kind of depends on where we are. Panama has a great service here to get packages. It's not cheap. My sister brought me a suitcase of things.
Yeah, but basically, like there's an address in Miami, and they put it on an airplane for $4 a pound, or they put it on a ship for $275 for a crate, though, like up to 400 pounds stuff. So when we got the bottom pay, that went by airplane. We're supposed to go by ship. There's a screw up.
We tried to get a lot when we were in the States, though. So we're pretty.
Yeah,
There's always things we didn't plan for. But
you'll see in the next episode. Like we had a 106-pound box of just like random goodies sent from the States to here that met us here basically like a week after we arrived, and we've had a whole bunch of electronics we needed to upgrade and chart plotters and just a whole host of stuff. So we got that, and then Grace's sister brought down a whole suitcase for us. So we're always trying to get stuff in.
But that's a good question, James, because cruisers, that's one thing cruisers talk about quite a lot, is like how to get stuff to where they are, because it's always different.
Yeah, we're always waiting on parts, and luckily there's no import tax here in Panama, which is nice because we're a yacht in transit, so that's cool. So that saves a lot of money because I think the neighboring countries would charge 30 or 40% duty.
Yeah.
So
yep.
So that's a good setup. So like whatever we need, we will be getting here before we leave.
What's your favorite cruising area? Our favorite place we've ever traveled is the Azores, which is an island group off Portugal, and then probably Nova Scotia. Yeah. Actually, the Azores was more dramatic and like gorgeous, but the Nova Scotia might actually
in terms of sailing,
surpass
in terms of sailing,
the Azores in terms of sailing and cruising. Because one thing about cruising is and this surprised me to learn, but it's not. There are some places you just don't want to go by boat. Like there are a lot of great places in the world. You don't necessarily want to cruise there, and there's a bunch of different criteria for that. And so the longer we do this, the more interested we are in going places that are good cruising places. Maybe not like the places that we like have been dying to go, bucket list places, but are like the best places to go for cruising because they check those boxes, and Nova Scotia was one of those. Yeah, it was incredible.
What were we talking about? We were reading somewhere like what makes a great cruising ground is like ease of anchoring, like safety at anchor.
Yep.
Close ability to get supplies and food.
Yep.
Like secludedness.
Secludedness.
So I think like because the Azores are beautiful and dramatic, but the anchorages were rolly. The anchorages weren't really meant for weren't supposed to be a slip, not an anchorage. So
yeah.
But like whereas Nova Scotia, we could find a cove every night that was tucked away. You had it to yourself. We had easy shore access. We could have bonfires. We could go swimming. We could go paddleboarding.
Yeah, so there was like no rules. No population density was super low.
So it was just a great cruising ground.
Yeah.
I guess Panama's got to be up there too, though. Now.
Yeah. Yeah. Panama's very chill too, like with stuff in general, like cruising.
Anchorages are pretty good, and like easy to get stuff. We're neighbors at SBI. Yeah, it's probably quite a few of us sailors who are neighbors at SBI.
We do have Iridium Go.
We have Iridium Go. That's how we get weather. Predict wind. We use that. Works pretty well. I mean, and that's the installation would take a lot of time and money that we're not really.
And yes, Peggy, it was Brador Lake. That's where we were.
Yep, we loved it there.
We're not adding more solar panels because we don't have room.
Yeah, we're out of space for solar panels.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more that we want to even power though.
How often do you use your centerboard? We use our centerboard quite a lot, actually. It really does help. I could see the heading versus COG change when we drop the board, so we do slip this sideways if we don't have the board down. So I won't use it like coastally typically, but if we're offshore for a night or something, and we're reaching, I'll put the board down, and it does help a lot.
Yeah, one thing people would know if we did a boat tour is we have a very shallow draft boat. The deeper keel, we have this centerboard. It's called a center lower, and that makes your draft much deeper. So we go from 4.2, which is
8 feet,
to
almost.
8 feet with that feature, and it's been very good to have a shallow draft. Well, with our particular boat, and I think this more has to do with it being an older boat, but yeah, definitely does. So basically, to make the boat have like high headroom, they kept the bilge very shallow on our boat. So, and that has to do with like the draft, right?
And the height of the boat.
Yeah.
So
we don't have a lot of storage down below, like in the bilge, like a lot of people have. And having a shallow bilge has caused us some problems over time, particularly with respect to water. When water comes in our bilge, there's just like less place for it to go than another boat.
So it usually goes up the floorboard.
So it has to get pumped out like immediately, and if it doesn't, like if we're heeling, it will actually raise the floorboards and
yeah, because it can't get to the pump because it's so shallow.
Yeah, so if you like are interested in boat design and stuff, that is one thing about our boat. But I'd say like overall, it's been good having a shallow draft.
I think I would take it over that compromise.
Yeah,
any day. I like shallow draft. It does help us like tuck any. prevents us from running ground as often. We still bump bottom occasionally, but
yeah. So I think
that's
we
it.
should, 5:20. We should wrap it up. And yeah, so we just want to say thanks, guys, for watching. Oh, should we take one more question?
Yeah.
You guys have done a lot and seen a lot. What's your favorite cruising memory?
I think arrival to the Azores was pretty cool. Like the first ocean crossing being done, and you leave St. Martin, like you're firmly in the Caribbean, and then you see like these green hills of the Azores arise, and you go to town, and there's like cafes, and you're in Europe suddenly. So it's just like a very cool memory to like, wow, we just crossed an ocean, and you feel the cultural and geographic change. So it's just like it's sort of otherworldly, like it's just a bizarre experience leaving the Caribbean and show up in Europe.
And it's such a fantastically beautiful, incredible place we never heard about. So we get there and we're just like, wow, like these are the kinds of places you go to when you cruise. Like we never even heard about the Azores. So that was one. For me, the other one was actually when we did the 7-day passage from North Carolina up to Nova Scotia. And it was a great passage. And I'll just never forget like the light fog and just how ethereal the feeling was. Like it's just such a rustic place. We sailed into this place that just like, I don't know, it just felt like we were on another planet. And it's so interesting how you go from being gray, everything's blue and gray around you, and then like all of a sudden you see something in the distance and it's there, and then all of a sudden it's all around you. And it was just the sounds and like the seals. There was like seals like diving. I'd never like seen a seal like obviously from the boat before. I mean, it was just
that's a magical place.
Yeah.
So I definitely I would like to get there again someday.
Yeah, those places that you go to by boat, that you get that feeling when you're there that it would be completely different if you didn't come by boat. Like those are the places that feel really special when you sail to them, because you just feel that feeling. There's no one else there. No one's getting there by train, car, and no one's going there because nobody really goes to Nova Scotia, right? But I mean, people do. But yeah, what I'm trying to describe is those have been the favorite cruising moments for us, is going to those kinds of places. So Azores and Nova Scotia.
Hopefully we'll be finding some new ones in the future here.
No problem. Let's see. Do we have anything secondary pump? No. Okay. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks guys for everything.
Thank you for watching, and yeah,
click like, subscribe.
Click like, subscribe. It helps us grow. We want to keep doing this. So
yep.
Yeah, and again, feedback. We will consider that one on the budget, and yeah, anything else you guys
let us know. Send us a message. Instagram, YouTube, whatever it may be.
Questions, anything.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Happy 2022.
Everyone have fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.